welcome to the Leadership Shift. And today we have the chance to speak with Kamal Soan, that is an executive coach or leadership coach, excuse me. He is based in Atlanta, and I would like to learn a lot about your experience. I see that you have a lot of certifications. So tell me a little about this, what they bring to you, and what they mean also.
First of all, thank you so much for the invitation and this opportunity, Aurelian. My journey in, general has been, step-by-step approach. And they reflect in my way of, kind of going step by step from certifications point of view or career roles point of view. And so, as you can see, there have been quite a few certifications that I have achieved. But saying so, there also has been a turning point in achieving those certifications. So to really deep dive into my career and in general about certifications, right? Way back I was not even in IT. I actually was a business consultant to start with, more of like who helps small businesses, in university as part of Small Business Development Center. And later on, I realized my passion towards management and did MBA, and then moved towards more of, passion for meeting new people and new scenarios and so forth. And as they say, right, when the universe aligns, someone, a great professional like you shows up in our path and kind of redirects us into a different direction. So I had a call with one of the recruiters from some company. I don't know who that universal power recruiter was. He just had a call with me. He was interested in some position, reviewed my resume and said, "Hey, I would like to talk to you." I said, like, "Okay, great. Let's talk about it." And then as we were talking, it was about, some business analyst position or a project manager position. And upon talking to him, he said, like, "You would make a great project manager, actually." And believe me, Aurelian, I had no idea who project manager was at that time. And then we are talking almost about like, this is about 2010, 15 years ago. And then I asked him, like, how do one become a project manager? He said, no one becomes a project manager directly. You have to take step-by-step approach towards mastering the skills and, all those things. And I said, okay, I want to become a project manager one day. And so I started my journey as a BA, but BA was more like a step towards becoming a project manager. But when I was a BA with all the project experience and all the knowledge that I gained, I wrote PMP. A lot of people fail to realize that you don't need to be in the role to take a certification. So PMP was my first step, kind of like break-even point in my career where I felt like, okay, I have reached a stage where I can establish myself. And so when I passed my PMP in 2014, I said to myself I would continuously learn, improve. And that's how I took one certification every year, like PMP, PGMP, Six Sigma related, and all those things. But then in 2022, I had an opportunity for an executive to coach me, and she had a wonderful question for me. Are you doing these certifications for just dopamine, or are they really helping you in your career? This is something I would like everybody listening to this podcast to think about. Are you doing something in your life just for dopamine, or are they really helping you in your career?
Yeah, and it's exactly the thing that I saw. You had a lot of certification, and it was a question: how was there helpful for you? What was the value? And you tell me that you did also business analysis. Why did you not do the PMI PBA, Professional Business Analyst?
Absolutely. In fact, interesting story is that I did start the application towards it.
Okay.
But then life took a fast pace with so much work going on in the organization I was working, and too little to understand about, let's just say the certification at that time, almost 12, 13 years ago. I couldn't push through PMI PBA at that time.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
as my interest towards PMP or project manager started to grow, that's how I ended up taking PMP rather than PMI PBA.
Okay. So what did it bring to you, the PGMP? Because it's the next step after the PMP. A lot of people that listen may have taken the PMP because it's a classic, but the PGMP, we don't know much about it. So tell us a little what it's bring to you and what you learn from making the certification and what it brings also in your daily work.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell a small analogy here so that the listeners can understand what is the true difference between, PFMP, PGMP, and PMP in general. Now imagine we all live in a house, right? Everybody has, maybe, a one-story house or a two-story house or whatever number of stories across the world. PMP is more like understanding the room you are currently in, which means to say the project that you're working on. You focus more on the people, execution, risks associated with that particular project only. But whereas PGMP is understanding the floor you are in, which means to say that the space you are in, all the rooms associated or the projects associated with it, and understanding the interconnectivity with those projects. But the main important thing I have learned through PGMP is understanding the benefits from each of those projects, putting it together, understanding the true value, how you are contributing towards the organization, which is the whole house itself, and delivering the benefit rather than delivering a project. That's what you would learn through PGMP is the benefit realization. It's almost, I would say, 5x of PMP because PGMP itself as an exam, the application itself is like an exam. You have to submit an extensive number of questions, get it validated or reviewed by a mentor, and then submit the application because it goes through a thorough process. And then who passes the application process gets to sit the exam, which is in itself another level of testing for PGMP, and then you eventually clear the exam based on your experience and knowledge. So
Okay.
it's like understanding at a very broader range, and it's a good jump from PMP to PGMP.
Okay, this is great. Um, do you think there is something like the project management professional, the PMP, is more focused on the management, and the PGMP bring you this consciousness of there is a benefit realization and you need to go to the leadership mindset. Is there something like
Absolutely.
this?
Yes.
Okay.
PMP
And
is
I
more absolutely spot on. Is that PMP is more like understanding a limited space of people, but people who want to grow more from execution to leadership and delivering that message. Because remember this early on, communicating to executives is also like storytelling. You need to have that art of executive communication. At project management level, it's more connecting to the managers and the team level leaders. But whereas when you come to the program level or above it, you're truly talking to the vice presidents, the directors, and the senior vice presidents who want to understand in a very crisp manner. Just tell me in 5 minutes what's going on. So that's
yeah,
the shift.
yeah, and you put a very nice bridge to my next question because it was about your DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster. And
Mhm.
by itself, it's a lot of work. I know I'm working on my DTM right now, and I have some project to complete to make this. What did you bring? What did it bring to you, this DTM certification? I mean, completion, I will say.
I think back a decade and a more ago, Aurelian, I saw a person, who was living in the same space I was in, catching a paper and, walking through the room and trying to understand, or let's just say, memorize the script of what the speech was. I was like, what is this all about? Then he said, it's Toastmasters. I was like, that is something I want to do as I get started. So I went to the first meeting. I still remember standing there in front of the door, shivering within myself to face new people, new kind of environment. But I always heard great things about Toastmasters, positive people, positive encouragement, and great network. So I said to myself, either I walk across the door or stay in my comfort zone and continue my life the way it is. As I went through that door, everybody in the clubs I have been involved embraced me so beautifully. And thanks to all those wonderful mentors I had, that it took me about, like, I think 3 to 5 years to achieve DTM. Now, what did it give me to achieve DTM or after achieving DTM? Is the shiver I had on day one is no longer the shiver. It's the power that came out of it, which means it's like a beautiful butterfly transforming from no nothing to a beautiful butterfly which can fly across. And today's podcast or meeting is an example of what DTM can do. You can stand anywhere, speak confidently, and present yourself very openly so that you don't have any hesitation towards what you are delivering here.
Yeah, and I mean, Toastmaster is really something amazing. I am in Toastmaster for more than 10 years, and
Mm-hmm.
it took time to do the DTM because I was a little scared. I saw it very complex to do it, so I took time to really start the project. But I I stopped during 2 years to go to Toastmaster, and I said, okay, I need to go back because you need to practice, and it's a
Yes.
very good place to be. So thank you very much for sharing this with us. Now we will go a little more on what is your real job and what is your vision of the leadership in IT, and what is failing, if there is anything failing in the leadership of IT.
All right. Wonderful. I'll tell a simple story, and then that would actually align towards leadership in IT.
Mhm.
When I was a kid early on, I had two brothers. I have two brothers. So we went to a vegetable market. There was these like PetSmart here in US. You have aquariums and all those things, right? Where you have beautiful fishes going around. Now, when we initially went, the seller of the aquarium put fish beads in it, which means like the tiny beads, you know about it. And the
Mhm.
fishes were nice and moving around. We bought the aquarium home, everything was fine. But then curiosity pushes in everybody, right? So then we went next time, and then the person who was selling the aquarium was feeding worms to the fishes. Now, what he shared that day was the worms are more, energetic, like protein rich food for the fishes. And then that will make them agile, that will make them swift. They will deliver kind of like more, in stature or something like that. And so we were excited. Oh, let's try about it. And then we brought the, worms home. We started feeding them. But just like in IT, right? No one tells you the risks associated with it. The worms did make the fishes agile, but then they started to leave so much waste. They started to attack each other because their appetite grew so much. And they started to bite the tails of the other fishes because the food is limited, because we used to give them as per the time, but their appetite grew so much they had to get somewhere else. And so what happened was the warm aquarium, it got dirty, it got so much bad that fishes started to eat. Now leadership in IT or any organizations like these two aquariums, the fish bead aquarium and the worms aquarium, now, who is feeding these fishes? It's the person who is taking care of those fishes. And teams are just like these aquariums. The leadership is the one that is feeding. Now, anybody who's listening to this podcast should ask them, are you in a fish feed feeding aquarium, or are you in a worm feeding aquarium where the health of the team is decided by the leader on the top? So, my view of leadership is always to have a fish feed aquarium, because things are under control. But let's just say if they are not, communication does help a lot. The style of communication and how you communicate, and taking the right approach towards resolving the situation helps fishes stay happy.
Okay. We heard a lot from a few years about artificial intelligence, and it is for me something that was very common, and even 10 years ago I was aware of because I was in automation. It's just the evolution of it. But do you see it as a success or as a failure, this artificial intelligence initiative? What is your opinion on this?
Anything of too much or anything of too little is ineffective. Everybody or every organization is focusing towards allocating budget or allocating their manpower towards AI, improving the efficiency, improving the productivity, and improving the knowledge towards AI. Now, one thing we need to be careful about is where does the line draw towards ensuring that it is on the healthy side rather than not on the unhealthy side, which means the burnout side. Now, recently I gave a presentation on AI burnout, and it is pretty much known that 66% are starting to feel that burnout. Just like any technology shift, like we have seen the Y2K in 2000, or cloud computing, or any of those things, what is it that will benefit the organization from what you are trying to pursue? And are you pursuing it for, again, like when we go back to PMP and PGMP, are you driving this more like a project, or are you driving this more from benefit value realization? If we are driving it from benefit value realization, then you know what the scope is about achieving it. But if you're just driving it for being relevant in the current times, then pretty much sure that the aquarium is going to get dirty. So
Okay.
it's all about where and how and what you are trying to achieve through your team so that you are relevant to the current times.
Yeah. So if I hear well, you are telling me that most of the people are going to the famous trend that it is, and they push to it, but they don't realize what is really the benefit for the organization. It's more creating a lot of projects to do things, but they don't know why they are doing this. And how can we improve this then? What will be the right things that you see that can improve? Because when you are in a project that you are an individual contributor or project manager, you listen what your manager is telling you, more or less.
For example, let's just say, we have created an agent for status report, a simple thing that a project manager sends to executives. Now, can the agent build a status report? Yes, it can. You ask Copilot or anything, hey, generate a status report for last 2 weeks, it will. But then you have to review the status report for the efficiency or the accuracy of what it has generated. It's not going to generate 100% outcome. Maybe it can generate about 40%. So I think the use of AI depends on how much it is being valuable to us. So for example, let's just say earlier, there has been a status report that has been sent on Friday, but an update needs to be sent on Monday or Tuesday. Let's just say there was a product release or something like that. You don't use an agent to generate a simple status report, right? You use an agent to make complex things simple so that you can review and generate the information out there. So I think it all depends on the situation you're trying to solve, rather than for the sake of using an agent to use AI capability towards making your work easy. It is well known fact that 40% of work across globe will be automated in some form, whether it's automation or AI agent or anything as such. The only thing that's in our control is reskilling and efficiency towards how to use the agent so that we can continue the improvement from 40% to making it into 100% output, and using it to our use case that we are trying to achieve.
Okay. And looking at this 40% of the work, is there a place in the organization that you see that will not be affected by this? And which one need to really focus on reskilling?
So the areas that where this AI can make much difference is more like the BAU processes, like the development, code generation, operations, implementation, where the agents are known for staggering the knowledge which do not have major shift, like the BAU processes. But for example, like if you're in sales, if you're in product, if you're in professional services, there is very minimal impact that you can see, because the point is sales is more human interaction. Yes, the agent can help you generate the script, or kind of like the pull of metrics from within your organization based on the connectivity that you have provided to the agent, but it cannot replace the human interaction, or it cannot replace the leadership that makes that strategic decision making, whether it's product strategy road mapping, or whether it's professional services where it's more of revenue generation and so forth. I think there is a layer where beyond 40%, where everything else is more human in nature rather than something you can automate.
Okay, thank you very much. And how, I mean, I saw that 95% of projects of artificial intelligence fail. And we discussed that it's probably due to this issue of understanding what you want to achieve and what is the benefit realization. How can you help your client or the people in a company to avoid this mistake and make better decision?
I think one big thing to do is to analyze, as we just spoke about, is what are we trying to achieve through AI, right? Now, there are two parts to it. One is the learning curve and the other one is the experience curve. Right now, we are in such a learning curve. There will be early adopters of learning about AI, everything that is associated with it. And as soon as they come towards the experience curve, they start to see that a lot of things that they have learned is either irrelevant or, let's just say, little too relevant to the work that they are doing. Now, one of the ways to avoid that being in the 95% and truly be in 5% is truly understanding the use case that you're trying to solve rather than going across the organization and saying we will be using AI, right? Customized
Mhm.
approach is much better than organizational approach. It's like this: you make a rule. Some may like it, some may don't like it, some may adopt it, some may not adopt it. And this is not a new concept here. It's been a leadership concept for a long time. So I would see AI the same way as the previous concept is about let those who see value through it adopt faster, and those who see that little to no value, educate them first. If they see value, then contribute towards it. Because right now, what's happening, Orion, is that there are about 66% people who say that they are feeling burnout based on the cultural shift of this AI, which means to say that they're not really imbibed into this idea, but since the organization is pushing them to really take the AI knowledge, agents creation, and all that, they feel a little bit pushed towards being away from productivity rather than towards productivity. So I think it's all
Okay.
about analyzing and truly understanding what benefit you want to achieve through using AI rather than just blindly following and saying, okay, let's do prompt engineering, let's do some courses and create an agent. In the end, what will
Oh,
happen is all these agents will create noise rather than efficiency, and you're lost in this whole transit and you're already burnt out your 2 years budget or 3 years budget in it.
yeah. I saw in your profile that you are a PMO executive. So PMO executive is a mix between project management and leadership. So can you explain me what is your role and what is a PMO? Because I think as a project manager, there is a lot of people that don't understand what is really a PMO, and it makes confusion in the organization. So explain us what is your role, what is PMO, and give us more insight in this.
Absolutely. My current role is a solution enablement lead, which means in my role, I work across the solution from engineering team to the operations team to, professional services, sales, product, uh, and client relations, etc. What does that truly stand out is I'm centered in execution towards all the initiatives and all the teams that are out there, and making sure that everybody is on same process towards same space towards process governance tools, and allocation of project managers and any other roles that are required. Now, what makes PMO stand out is that they are the ones who are related to, efficiency of people, process, or tools. And we make sure that the lack of clarity can be avoided by providing the right information, bringing them to the right discussions, and making sure that the end-to-end flow of anything that's being done in this solution is progressing towards continuous improvement rather than a roadblock or an impediment that is stalling the work that needs to be done. So as a PMO executive, I have my own team that I work with, and those are spread across the solution for different initiatives and different teams that are associated with it, and make sure that metrics point of view, reporting point of view, work efficiency point of view, it's being looked into, reviewed, and right steps are taken for continuous improvement.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any specific feedback or elements that you would like to tell to our audience? And after, I will ask you some questions from the previous guest.
PMO executive and also as a ICF-certified life and leadership coach and speaker, my question to the audience listening to this podcast is always think about where your ship is heading towards. Ship as in your life or whether your career or whether whatever is aspect of your life is heading towards. Make sure you see that you have a lighthouse, which means to say a mentor or a coach or someone whom you are seeking guidance time to time. No matter how awesome you are, there is always a level of efficiency that you can improve by working with someone who can truly guide you. It can be within your organization or outside your organization. So always think about on a scale of 1 to 10 is what do you rate in the skill that you're trying to achieve. Let's just say if the number is below 8, ask yourself what is the next step. This we call as the grow model in our coaching. It's called goal. What is the reality? What options do you have and what is your will do? Which means to say to pick the action from your options. And you can take this model to anything that you work in life, and I'm sure you'll be successful in what you would like to achieve.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this. And my previous guest asked a question that is very interesting. What did you learn that changed your life completely?
I learned that changed my life completely. I would say I would credit that to Toastmasters actually, because the
Okay.
point is, I still remember the day I was standing at the doors of a Toastmasters club, and this was not a small club. It was a like an advanced club wherein not everybody can kind of enter into that doors. It's like someone who has achieved a level to reach there. I didn't knew about it. I was like, I just entered the room, and everybody there was 55 plus. Now the important point is either you can get intimidated and walk away, or you can stand there and say, okay, let me learn from the situation. And I think it taught me two things. One, you can learn from anybody, no matter what the title of that particular person is. Whether you are a janitor in an organization or whether you are CEO in an organization, you can learn from anybody because the experience of that person is different from your experience, and the lessons learned from them can be valuable so that you don't need to go through the same experience. If we can learn from others' experience, it is always helpful. So, Toastmasters journey has been very incredible to learn, and also to be positive that it's one step at a time. In Toastmasters, what we do is we go one speech at a time, one book at a time, one level at a time, and that has become my philosophy in everything. People ask me, how is your day going on? I said, today great, one step at a time, one day at a time. Just go with the flow and things will work naturally. And it could be also because my one of my not one of my top trait in my Clifton strengths is positivity. I always take everything that comes in my life with one step at a time and be positive so that the universe does its magic and I achieve what I was working towards.
Very good answer. Thank you very much. And if I can paraphrase what you tell, the skills that help you the most in your career was communication. And I will relate a lot in this because I see people that are very good technically, they miss this communication part and they have struggled to grow their career. And there is people that have no technical skill, they just are excelling at communication and they grow and you don't understand why. And it is really a skill that I would love people to really learn so they can grow this way. And my past guest had two questions, and I was okay, good. I will ask both of them because both of them are very interesting. If you could send a message to 8 billion people, that means to the world, what will it be?
And out there, time and situation change every second. There are two categories of people in this world always: the help givers and help seekers. If you can move from being a help seeker to a help giver, you have made a difference in life. So be mad in your life, which means making a difference so that you are higher in percentage of a help giver than a help seeker.
Thank you very much. It's a very good sentence. If my audience that is listening this podcast would like to contact you, Kamal, how
Mhm.
should they do it? What will be your preferred way?
Absolutely. They can always search for me on my website, that is Soan to Success. It is SOAN number 2 success.com. My email address is kamal.soan@soantosuccess.com. Feel free to reach out. More than happy to be of value and contribute towards your success.
Thank you very much, Kamal. It was a great pleasure to speak with you. And I wish you all the success you can in your coaching area and in your executive PMO job. And I hope you will have a great success. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you so much once again, Orlean, for the opportunity. Thank you. Good day.
Yeah.